Good morning, everyone.
Hello, Rotary Club of Harrisburg. Welcome. See Mr. Rebuck there. Tom Johnston, nice to see you. Larry Means, Marion Alexander. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Okay. All right, Adeline, do we have everybody in here? It looks like we do. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to this week's meeting of the Rotary Club of Harrisburg. This will, if things, the board met a week ago, and we have decided to go back in person. Just so everybody knows the deliberations that went into that. We're looking at the way our community stands right now. With where the COVID cases have, where they were and where they have come to be. We feel very confident with that. We've also been in communication with the Rotary District 7390 Safety Committee, which is led by District Governor-elect Juliet Altenberg. And everybody in the district is very comfortable with our club going back at this time. So we will be back next week at the Hilton. But today we have one more Zoom meeting here. And I just want to take a moment and thank everybody for their patience over the last month and a half here. This has been a month really, or a year here filled with some fits and starts and a little bit of uncertainty. And as you'd expect, this club really hung in there, and through the fits and starts, as you'd expect, the Rotarians, particularly the ones in this club, just keep going. So thank you for everything that we've been able to accomplish so far here. And I'm really looking forward to getting back in person next week. For today's program, we're going to get started first here with Will Everhart with our invocation.
Thank you, President Matt. Let us pray. Let us give thanks for the harshness of winter, for in it we see the true wonder of spring. Thank you for the friends who surround us, our good health, and this wonderful club. Watch over the citizens of Ukraine as they defend their homeland during this terrible invasion. May they remain steadfast in their defense of their home and find comfort in the support of their allies. Amen.
Thank you very much, Will. Very timely words there. Before we move on to our pledge, just another quick word on that. Obviously, everyone has been paying attention to the events unfolding around the world. I feel like we've seen it a few times over the past 3 or 4 months. Feels like the world's going backwards a little bit here instead of the forwards direction that we wanted to go. So keep the people of Ukraine in mind. And as we say our own pledge today, just take a moment and really reflect on how quickly certain things can turn around the world. So now, Adeline, do you have the flag? Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now just some very quick announcements. I do want to give everyone a heads up here. As of this moment, our speaker has not joined us yet. Ellen's working on getting him on board onto the meeting here, but we fortunately have some other things to take care of here, so we have some time. I'd like to thank Karen Paris first for being our minute taker. Thank you very much, Karen. And also, I understand that we might have some guests here today, and I have been told that
Hello.
Karen Collings has some guests.
Jan Arnold from Arnold's Naturals.
Hi, Karen. Can you? There we go. I believe you're unmuted now.
Oh, there we go. I'm muted now. No, I'm sorry. We don't have any guests joining us. The one individual I thought was going to be able to had a conflict. So this is recorded, correct? Will I be able to share it with staff?
Yes, you will.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Some quick service project announcements then. I'll wait for Adeline to get the slides back up here. Thank you very much. First, we are at the Central PA Food Bank tonight. What happened there? At the Central PA Food Bank tonight, we do not need any more volunteers at this time. I want to thank all of the Rotarians in our club who have stepped up. We have a full slate there, projects going to be taken care of. So again, thank you to everybody for lending a hand with those great projects over at the food bank. And the Ice and Fire Festival is coming up tonight on March 5th, this coming weekend. And we do need some volunteers for that, help set up throughout the week, as well as working some information booths on the day of and being out there to represent Rotary. It should be a great event, pulling people into downtown Harrisburg. And so even if you can't volunteer, be sure to come on down and check out the Rotary ice sculpture, which is going to be out in front of the Hilton. We also have the Capital City Cornhole Classic coming up on March 26th at Appalachian Brewing Company on Cameron Street. A great opportunity to go out and help represent some of our fellow Rotarians over at the Keystone Club. And I was looking in the chat here real quick. Una Martone, would you like to, I see you were in the chat about a guest. Would you like to introduce your guest live here?
You should be able to unmute yourself.
Where do we go here? Okay. Well, if we can't get that to work, I apologize, Una. We'll move on. Everybody welcome Alexis there. Thank you for joining us today. Real quick, in general, our club has always focused heavily on projects with Harrisburg's youth. And we've had a few of them going on this year that, despite some significant hurdles, everybody in this club has really forged ahead to make these things happen. The first of them is the Youth Exchange, which was shut down last year. It was one of our areas of focus this year, sponsoring not only students coming here to our community from abroad, but also sponsoring students to go overseas to have an absolutely amazing experience as a youth exchange student through Rotary. We are sponsoring one student from Camp Hill this year. His name's Jeffrey Harper. And last Sunday, I had the opportunity to go down to the district office in York for the district youth exchange reveal. And I'm happy to say that our student, Jeffrey Harper, will be traveling to Thailand. He got his #1 choice and was incredibly excited and grateful for everybody in this club and the support that he's received to be able to have that experience. So thanks to Jill Tenney, Wendell Hoover, I know are very involved with that. There's a whole team of wonderful Rotarians in this club. Thank you for getting that back up and running and allowing us to have such an impact in a student's life in that way. Another one that has been a hallmark project for this club over the years is YCDT. And I wanted to give the committee a chance to give a direct update for that today. So I'm going to hand things over to Brad Gebhardt right now for a YCDT update.
Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate that. Yeah, let me first of all let everyone know who is on this committee because they have gone above and beyond during this crazy year. Where yes, we've had to do virtual meetings, we've had to cancel meetings, we've had to condense our calendar of activities. So I would first want to send kudos to my co-chair, Andy Phillips. We also have Jillian Byerly, Marian Alexander, Megan Bachmore, who is now executive director at HYP. Congratulations, Megan. Jennifer Doyle, Jessica Ritchie, and kind of ad hoc member Jill Tenney. And again, none of this would be possible without Adeline there, who is always sort of like the foundation of every committee. But of course, thank you. So this year it's super exciting because we've got 36 kids. I don't know if that's more than ever before, but 36 kids participating in person Wednesday, once a month at the YMCA at Camp Curtin. Again, that's about 6 teams, we've come up with the general topic of mental health. Thanks again to all the team, but our last virtual session was run by Jennifer Doyle, who kind of helped us know what a good grant reply looked like, and was able to help the kids kind of define which 5 nonprofits, I was going to say responders to the grant, to the RFP, but 5 nonprofits that are dealing with mental health that the kids actually chose through consensus. So mental health, we have 5 providers. We'll be talking to them about, we'll be bringing in those 5 providers for live interviews at the end of May. I'm stretching it until Lynn shows up, or Lenwood, Sloan shows up, but let me know when I'm done. So the kids also got a presentation on how to raise money peer-to-peer. Thanks again to Jillian and Jessica for that. So the kids will not only be doing a presentation live and in person at Rotary on Monday, April 4th, and our next session on the stage presentation and ask will be led by Marian Alexander next month. They again got a peer-to-peer sort of education on how to ask families and friends and other folks who would donate to this cause. Again, the goal is to raise $5,000. So the kids are going to raise money on their own. Kids are going to raise money from Rotary on April 4th. And the topic is mental health. And again, at the end of the session in May, we'll bring in the 5 finalists. The kids will interview them, ask questions, and then choose a winner of the $5,000 donation. So again, more kids than ever. Thanks to the committee for being flexible. And yeah, it's going to be really exciting as always. So we'll take questions if you guys have any. Otherwise, is there anything I missed?
I don't think you missed anything. Thank you very much, Brad. If anybody does have a quick question for Brad and what's going on at YCDT, we do have some time here. We'll give a second here to see if anybody puts anything in the chat or raises a hand. While we're waiting there, Brad, thank you so much. And to everybody on the YCDT committee, that has certainly been one of the projects with more hurdles than others this year. Trying to work with that many students from multiple schools in the environment that we're in, with all of the precautions that need to be taken. You've really done an excellent job there, even though it hasn't all lined up perfectly for you, keeping it moving. Thank you so much for what you've done.
Cool. And I just want to say one more shout out to Bob Salines for doing a nice article on the YCDT for newsletter, social media, and everything. So all the publicity we can get, we appreciate. So thank you.
All right, great. Thank you again. And now we are going to move on to our main event for the day. So I am going to hand the virtual mic over here to Ellen Brown to introduce our speaker for today.
I think now I'm unmuted. Thanks a lot, Matt. We have a phenomenal program today. The International Institute of Peace through Tourism, the IIPT project, was born in 1986, the International Year of Peace, with a vision of travel and tourism becoming the world's first global peace industry, with the belief that every traveler is potentially an ambassador for peace. The Harrisburg Riverfront IIPT Park, which was founded with the involvement of Rotarians, the late Dr. John Judson and his wife, Anna Marie Judson, a current Rotarian, and Janice Black, CEO of TFECT, was led by activist and catalyst Lenwood Sloan and was established in 2018. And it joins a list of cities across the globe as an International Institute through Peace Park. The first 2 years, the group focused on creating monuments in downtown Harrisburg and along the Susquehanna River, which had fallen into disrepair. This group rededicated 8 monuments, celebrated their original purpose with new standards, and were committed to honoring the past as a way to embrace our future. Then, the group spearheaded the Commonwealth Monument Project to restore the memory of the old 8th Ward, which was placed near the state capitol. The Commonwealth Monument Project was a project of TFEC, again, whose Rotarian is Janice Black, and largely supported by another fellow Rotarian, Peggy Grove. Rotarian Jeb Stewart was also greatly involved in this project. Now, in recognition of today, which marks the final day of Black History Month, and tomorrow marks the 1st, which is Women's History Month, Lenwood Sloan is here to tell us about a special cultural and heritage tourism experience coming to the capital city and downtown destination areas. This initiative, which is of great magnitude, will be based out of the newly created T. Morris Chester Welcome Center at the Dauphin County Library System's McCormick Riverfront Library. To further underscore Rotary Club of Harrisburg's involvement as peacemakers and change makers in Harrisburg, I'd like to note that the library's capital campaign is being co-chaired by Rotarian Susan Anthony and fellow Rotarian Karen Collins, who's the executive director of the Dauphin County Library System. So let me hand this virtual podium over to my dear friend and change maker and visionary extraordinaire, Lenwood Sloan.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me, Ellen? Can you hear me?
Now, yeah.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Great. I would like to, and can you see me? Can you see me, Ellen?
We can't see you right now, Lenwood.
I am at a
There you are.
funeral, my dear friend. And so I am working on my notebook. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to log in on my laptop, so I apologize. First of all, I want to thank the Rotary for their continuous support of our projects across the 5 years that we have celebrated being the first and only Pennsylvania network Global Peace Park in the system. There are 452 sites across the globe, and we are the only Pennsylvania site. So I'd like to thank you all for your continued support. Secondly, I have to acknowledge Peggy Grove. Without her help, our project simply would never have gotten off the ground. At each benchmark and at each step in the project, Peggy Grove has been there to add fuel, fire, and encouragement. And of course, our dear friends and colleagues at TFEC, who are both collaborators, sponsors, and our fiscal agents of the project. The Commonwealth Monument Project at 4th and Walnut is the first in the nation, monument in the nation to be dedicated to the value of the vote. And it sits on the south lawn of the K. Leroy Irvis building on a special site that we created called the Irvis Equality Circle. It sits at the foot of a Pennsylvania Historic and Museum Commission marker that says that Frederick Douglass spoke on that corner in 1859 to the citizens of the old 8th Ward to encourage them to continue to advocate for the franchise. That meeting, as noted in the Harrisburg Telegraph, that over 1,000 citizens met on that corner of 4th and Walnut Street. And so it was there that we placed the monument. Across the street from that site is a city marker. It says that the Tanner's Alley, the main street of the old 8th Ward, was a historically designated site along the Underground Railroad. Harrisburg was called a safe house, and freedom seekers along the Underground Railroad would make their way to Harrisburg, to 4th and Walnut, and enter Tanner's Alley and be sheltered by the families there until they continued to move up to Win Rutherford's farm, which was on Allison Hill and on up Route 11 and 15 towards Freedom. Freedom seekers usually stayed in the old 8th Ward for between 1 week and 90 days. They might season there in the homes of the mixed culture community, primarily African American, but also Jewish and Irish. There were 2 synagogues in the old 8th Ward, both still exist today. There was an Irish Catholic Church and a German Catholic Church, which exists today. And that community sheltered freedom seekers for a season. There were 1,100 homes in the old 8th Ward and 500 businesses. It was perhaps one of the most prosperous African American communities in the central Pennsylvania area, and well known, of course, for its work in the Civil War, and also was the site of the Grand Review of the United States Colored Troops at the end of the Civil War. So the community had quite a history. It grew from 1850 to 1912, but in 1912, during the City Beautiful movement, the entire community was, I want to say decimated, but the historical term is removed through eminent domain. Every piece of that community, every brick, every nail, every mortar was disassembled and sold for construction. And today, there is not a single stone, pebble, marker, cornice, or doorstep left to remind us of that once valued, now vanished community. But the descendants of the people who lived there are still with us. And we are able to gather and search for the descendants of the old 8th Ward, those 1,100 households, through the generosity of a national small college grant, which was given to Messiah University and Harrisburg University for their students to help us digitally search for the descendants of the old 8th Ward. Now, I'd like to also say that 1 block away from the old 8th Ward at 3rd and Walnut Street was the federal fugitive slave office, and bounty hunters entered the old ward from 1850 when the Fugitive Slave Act was passed until the end of the war in 1865, searching for those freedom seekers. It was a federal law that it was illegal to harbor a freedom seeker. You might have noted that I am not referring to these people as runaways, which was an unlawful act, but rather freedom seekers, which were people who were taking their own destiny into their own hands and being assisted by the people of the old 8th Ward. So the old 8th Ward formed a women's organization, the Henry Highland Garnett Society, organized a vigilance and resistance league, kind of a community policing league. And it's a very dynamic story about the fight for freedom in Harrisburg's Old Eighth Ward. We were able to use that grant and the partnership with Harrisburg University and Messiah University. We were able to appropriate the wanted signs that the bounty hunters put on the telephone poles throughout the neighborhood to reposition that wanted sign to call out wanted descendants of the old Eighth Ward. And the students went throughout central Pennsylvania, putting up signs saying, we are looking for the descendants of John Scott, the descendants of Annie Amos, the descendants of Mary Braxton, the descendants of John Adams. And if you know anything about the whereabouts of these descendants, would you please tell us where they were? Now I have to pause here and add a byline that the project began by a fundraiser in the common way that people raise money, by selling bricks. It was our intention to sell bricks of the names of 100 of the leading citizens of those 1,100 families. We could not do all 1,100, but we decided that we would sell these bricks. And we were asking people to buy a brick in honor of one of these families. The artist who created the monument came to us and said, if you want to honor these families, do you really want people to walk on them? Do you really want people to tread on the names of the people that you honored? And so Peggy Grove sponsored the creation of a pedestal that would have the names of these 100 people on the sides of the pedestal so that they would not be tread upon, and history had tread upon them quite enough. The pedestal became an orator's pedestal, and if you've seen the monument, you know that it's 4 life-size figures around an orator's pedestal, debating the fact that the Fifth Amendment includes provision for the franchise of women. And the sculptor includes Frances Harper, the noted suffragette who had been at Seneca, who's handing the 50th Amendment back to the men. The names became very important, and we launched this campaign, and we were able to find the descendants of 73 families of the 100 families. It was our intention to have a grand gathering on the lawn at the unveiling of the monument of the descendants of as many of the Hunt families as we could find. However, like all of you, on March 13th of 2020, the world shut down, and we continued to delay and defer that gathering of the descendants. We are happy to say that this year, we will mark the Harrisburg Homecoming, Memorial Day to Veterans Day, inviting the families of the 100 voices, as we call them, to come home to Harrisburg. And while they cannot stand in the neighborhood that their descendants, that their ancestors advanced, they can stand in the safe house of history on the K. Leroy Irvis circle. And so we're happy to preview to Rotary that Mayor Williams, Councilwoman Bowers, and Commissioner Chad Saylor will be our honorary co-host of 2022 for the Harrisburg Homecoming, a national calling of the descendants of the 100 Voices to come home to Harrisburg this summer and enjoy and embrace the history of their ancestors. Now, IIPT is about cultural and heritage tourism. The belief is when you stand on someone else's land, when you visit someone else's community, when you embrace someone else's culture, it expands and extends your understanding, your cultural literacy, and your cultural competency. And so we know that family is an elastic word. We have family that is given to us. We have also the family of our churches, the family of our communities, of our fraternal organizations like Rotary. So we're also encouraging the families, the extended families, and the community circles of those 100 voices, the churches that they belong to, the fraternal organizations, the Masonics, the Shriners, the lodges, the Knights of Pythias, the community clubs, the YMCAs, the firehouses that were in the old 8th Ward, and the 500 firemen across its history who served that community. The 3 schools that were established and the graduates of those schools, the school that our beloved William Howard Day started is now on the site of the finance building, and it sits on the original site of that school. And so we've been working again with Messiah to look at yearbooks, census records, telephone directories, old news clippings to try to recreate the dynamic life of the old 8th Ward and encourage those people to come home to Harrisburg. This is a cultural tourism initiative. It creates a new and dynamic multicultural destination in downtown Harrisburg that connects the monument at 4th and Walnut Street to the new Chester Research Center, which will be the home of our living history company, the Pennsylvania Past Players. It connects them through the City Council's passage of a second surname for the Walnut Street corridor from Commonwealth to Front Street as the Thomas Chester Way. So the monument, the Thomas Chester Way, which leads you to the Chester Research Library, and the fact that the Toni Morrison Foundation has designated our project as a National Heritage Site and awarded us a Toni Morrison bench by the roadside, creates a dynamic passageway that connects the downtown DID and the Capitol complex through this passageway. Our goal is to develop the stories of the 100 years along Walnut Street and to place our Pennsylvania Past Players this summer along the Walnut Street corridor from the monument to the library to tell stories and engage locals, their guests, temporary visitors, tourists, and international representatives who visit the city, the county, and the Commonwealth to encourage them in the presence of the past through living history experiences. I'm excited to say that the Capitol workers are coming back to work at the Capitol. Each week, more than 8,000 people in pre-COVID worked and advocated at the Capitol. 8,000 people, temporary visitors to our city a week at the Capitol is larger than some small Pennsylvania cities and towns only minutes or hours away from us. This is an invisible community. At 7:45 a.m. to 3:45 p.m., they descend upon us. We would like them to ascend by going home with some of the history of the place where they work, but and spend their daytimes with some of the history of what was once there. And so we were able to also create a program in the 12 Capitol building called Look Up and Look Out. These are graphics, posters, postcards, and decals distributed to the state office buildings and say, look out the window of your building and we will tell you what once was there. Tell you about buildings. And if you enjoy history, place your phone to the QR code and you will be able to get a fuller history of the once valued now vanished community.
Oh no, did we lose him? I'm looking
Yeah,
through
I
here.
think he might have lost his connection.
That we have a few questions in the chat.
And I'd love to answer questions with the time we have.
Okay, the first question we have is, what is the date of what are the dates of the event this summer?
The Harrisburg homecoming season is from Memorial Day to Veterans Day. And we are working with cultural organizations in the downtown Capitol complex and Midtown to create special events. But we're also working with the city, the county, and the Commonwealth Park system to encourage families to use our public parks for family reunions, for gatherings, for retirement, and for quinceañeras, for sweet 16s, and to, in the time of COVID, where people are a bit tentative about gathering inside, our public parks, our public places, public art spaces, ideal, safe, and logical places to gather. So we will have special promotions and packages for families. And on our website, which is not very generous to help out to be a family reunion planning site where you can instantly find from park and rec facilities to the cultural organizations, special events, to caterers, to florists that will support your family reunion activities here in Harrisburg. I want to say, because Rotary is an economic engine also, that the family reunion is the largest growing niche market in the small meeting tourism marketplace. And so becoming so powerful that Temple University has created a family reunion curriculum, and Dr. Eon Vargas at the Family Reunion Institute at Temple University is helping us to develop these family reunion packages for 100 Voices and the extended community.
Thank you, Linwood. Una has put a link in the chat that I'd like to call everybody's attention to about an article in the digital press regarding the 100 Voices Project.
I'd also like to say, because we are a tourism initiative, that Pennsylvania and central Pennsylvania particularly is the 4th most popular inbound tourism destination in the mid-Atlantic states. And we are at a 4 to 8 hour drive away from 51% of the population of the United States. Ellen, the AAA says that the automobile is the new best way to travel due to COVID. And so we are encouraging people to drive, take a drive to Harrisburg and Dauphin County, spend time in our parks. Most of these people they don't stay in hotels, they come to visit their friends and their relatives. They are called VFRs. 44% of tourists to Harrisburg stay with friends and relatives. They're staying on your futon or your fold-out bed. You're staying on that air mattress that you bought for their visit. And the first day you're glad to see them, and the last day you're glad to see them leave. In the days in the middle, we're saying explore the cultural history of Harrisburg in general, and the history of this dynamic African-American community in particular, by visiting the Chester Center, visiting the market, and interacting with our Living History Company.
Okay, are there any other questions for Lenwood here? Okay, so
I would end by saying I invite you all to visit digitalharrisburg.com. digitalharrisburg.com. There you will find a dynamic website that gives you the history of the old 8th Ward, a sequence of the deconstruction and reconstruction of the Capitol Park, a brief history of the 100 Voices, stories about their descendants, and a wonderful gallery that we are working on. And I sign off by saying that Dr. David Carmichael, Executive Director of the State Archives, is working with us as the State Archives moves to its new home to create what we are referring to, Matt, as memory boxes for these 100 families, so that enthusiasts, genealogists, and historians won't have to do this same kind of research, almost like paleontologists hunting. These families won't fall back into obscurity. We are placing their history in our state archives as we reconstruct their stories for future generations.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lenwood. One more round of applause. Thank you very much for coming, speaking to our club today, for taking the time and for powering through the periods of low bandwidth there. But you're crystal clear at the end there. We appreciate it. All the work you've done. It's a very valuable history lesson. Great to hear today. And just an excellent living history experience for people to learn more about the rich cultural heritage here in the Harrisburg area. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. So for the Rotary Club of Harrisburg, as we said before, this will be our last all Zoom meeting. Next week, March 7th, we are going to be in person at the Hilton. There will be a virtual option for anybody that would like to attend in that manner. We will keep those going, but we will be back for lunch at the Hilton. Please reach out to your Rotary best friends, everything, everybody you may not have seen in a little while here, and let everybody know. We'll be sending the messages out and the Rotary Roundup, as past President Rebuck always said, read it cover to cover every single time, but also reach out to your colleagues and let them know that we're coming back in person next week. And our speaker is going to be George Nahodl from Members First. So thank you, everybody, for jumping on here and joining us today. Thanks again to Lenwood, and looking forward to seeing everybody in person next week.